time to shift gears. This is the Man Shift Guide.
Welcome back to the Man Shift Guide, and this is part 3 of Peter's story of overcoming substance abuse and overcoming unaliving suicide, however you want to call it. And my final question to you on this is the idea of why me? You talk about being in rehab 6 times and having all of those people and seeing those things. And I know a lot of people, not a lot of people, but I know people who have similar struggles and are continuing to struggle. And I feel like they have turned themselves over and have prayed for things to be taken away and feeling like, oh, this guy, like, what's with this guy and not me kind of mentality. And I just want to ask your opinion on that. Like, what would you say to somebody who, scoffs at that and say, like, I've been there and nothing has changed for me. And yeah, what would you say to someone who's like that?
I think first I would say, what you're struggling with is real. First of all, that's I was there too. There was a time where I was like, nothing's happening. Like I'm putting all this effort and this part of me into this, and nothing. I'm not seeing any results, right? And then I started to understand what it was. And what it was not so much what I was seeing changing, it's what I was feeling inside changing. So once I understood that, I allowed it to happen. I allowed that change to happen and to fully, engross myself in that. And, you know, God works when God works. It's his timetable, right? And we're all just kind of sort of sitting here going, well, my time is short. I want to get this stuff done. I want to achieve something. I want to be something more than what I am. Or, you know, you accept Jesus and you give your life to him, and then your life seems to go downhill from there. There's been those cases, and I've heard many of those cases. And at one time, I was that case. There was a time where when I was like 16, 17, I was going to church and I was trying to do the whole what I call God thing, you know. But my heart wasn't there, And I'm not saying that other people's hearts aren't there. What I'm saying, more or less, is that once you can understand that that change is happening inside of you, as opposed to happening in the outside world for you, then those things will change because your perspective will change. Your heart will change. And maybe some of those things that you really wanted to happen will seem, paled in comparison to what he can actually do for your life. And that does start with your heart. It starts with your heart, you know. Everybody as a human being, we all have these thoughts, right? And a lot of them, because of the world that we live in, are negative, you know. A lot of them are it's easier to be negative than it is to be positive, right? So it's easy for us to not see things happen in our life and be like, oh well, he's not listening, you know. But the funny thing is that he already knows what you need, right? He knows that before you even ask him for anything, right? When has been that moment? What for me changed was how grateful I became for the little things, the very little things. The fact that I get to wake up next to my wife, the fact that I get to go out in the living room and see my son, see my kids, um, the fact that I'm even breathing. So whereas before I hated taking a breath, that change had to happen inside of me, first. And everything takes time. Nothing can happen overnight. Even these people that blow up, if you're looking for stardom and things like that, which some people are, ask yourself this question. Is that stardom for you, or is that stardom to help further the gospel? Is that stardom to help further what Jesus did for your life? Because if Jesus changed your life, then that's the message you should be pushing out to people. is the fact that you couldn't do it on your own. He had to help you, right? And that all starts in the heart. It all starts here. Your brain will play tricks on you all day, but your heart can stay pure. Your heart can be changed, you know? And for those people that are patiently waiting, patiently wait. There's not really much else you can do. You can curse at God for not giving you what you want, or you can understand that asking for what you want, He's already going to give you what you need. There's a difference between what you want and what you need, right? For me, I wanted certain things, right? And I would pray for those certain things to happen. And a lot of them did, right? But none of them would have happened if I didn't change my heart, if I didn't allow Him to change my heart. Because every single no that I got, or every single downfall that happened in my quest to try to get somewhere, would have killed me. It would have thrown me off a track. It wouldn't have taught me the lesson I needed to learn at that moment so that I could handle what He has for me. You know what I mean? It's really a lot of perspective. Once your heart changes, your perspective will change. And those things that seemed important may not be so important anymore, especially when you become grateful for the life that you have instead of being upset about it like I was, you know.
With a new perspective that you have and doing the things that you do, which is still, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still content creating, even though it's
Mhm.
more of a content creating on a bigger scale, because you talk about writing books and writing scripts and writing for a TV show or a
Mhm.
streaming show or what have you.
Mhm.
And I guess my saying is, how do you put your faith in Jesus and in God, and being in an industry that is generally known to be more nihilistic and more self-serving than someone of faith of you?
I keep myself humble. I make sure that I pray all the time. So every meeting that I have, I always talk to Him. I always make sure that He is aligned with what I want to do and I'm aligned with what He wants me to do. Right. And if I get that feeling for even a second that this is not for you, then I back out of it. No harm done.
Interesting.
I always have another path somewhere. Even if I don't see it, it means that because I close that door, another one opens. I just have to let Him take me to that door. I can't walk there on my own because that valley is deep, right? But Jesus can carry me there. And I have to be patient. I have to know that that is His plan. It's His plan for me. So I have to accept it. I have to fully open my arms and accept it and go with what He wants me to do. And that has a lot to do with the changing of your heart. Your heart will tell you because He will connect you there. He will tell you through your heart what you should do, not your mind, your heart, you know? And so that's what I do. I keep myself, even though I go out and I sign books and I have appearances and I do all these kind of things, I always keep Him with me. And I always try to sort of put myself around people that have that positive spin, that have that positive outlook, the optimism, as opposed to the negative side of things. um, I never want to be famous. I don't want to be famous. What I really want to do is help people with my story, with what I write, um, and some entertainment in there a little bit would be nice, but um, more or less it's really to give back to what I was given, and I was given salvation that day, and my life changed. And so that's what I'm going to continue to do, is to just put my story out there and tell everybody the honest truth of what happened. And that's Jesus changed my life.
And I mean, I guess no greater purpose, right? Like no greater,
I can't see one. No.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, being a father is, that's like, I always wanted to be a dad. You know what I mean? And that, probably stems from a lot of the pulling myself away from my father and all that stuff when I was younger and depressed and everything. Um, but now when I look back at it, I see all the sacrifices my dad made. He worked at a college and he still works there and he's 60 some odd years old, and it's like he did all that stuff and put his body through all of that work to make sure that we had food on the table and that we were fed and that we had clothes and, had Christmases, and when you look at it as a kid, it's very like, oh, I want the new toy, this or whatever it is, right? But when you're an adult and you got to try to figure out how to make ends meet and pay bills and get food in the house and clothes and stuff, I would imagine that it was very hard, that um, just as I know it is now because I'm a father myself. I didn't think about that when I wanted to have kids. You know what I mean? I just wanted to have kids because I wanted to love something more than myself, But for many years, I couldn't even do that because I didn't love myself. So it was hard for me to love other people. I was still very good to my kids, and I love them very much, and they love me very much, and it's very apparent. We do everything together. I mean, this book is, Endless Fall is based off of my daughter. She was the motivation for the main character, and it's just we are so close and to where before it was, well, I don't know if dad wants to go anywhere. I don't think he does. He's, sitting in the dark again and, metal music is blaring and, he's having his moments, and that's what it used to be called. It used to be, his moments and those moments were a lot, you know. Um, but that's what Jesus did for me. He took me out of that darkness. He gave me a way of looking at things with love and forgiveness, and that's one of the most important things in life is to forgive too. When you can forgive, you can move on, and that is a major part of doors opening. You have to forgive people that told you couldn't do it. You have to forgive people that tell you you're stupid or you'll never amount to anything or whatever these people say to you. You have to forgive them for that because you are about to go on your way. They are going to stay where they are because they never learned the lesson. You learn the lesson, forgiveness. People are going to treat you like crap. People are going to treat you nice and then stab you in the back. Those things will happen in life. But if you can honestly in your heart forgive, you will be able to move forward with a peace you would have never known otherwise.
Great message, man. I think that we've talked about a lot of things in the last 3 episodes. We've
Yeah.
talked about struggle. We talked about change. We've talked about faith. We just covered forgiveness. A lot of things that have transpired here. And I will say that in my own personal life, pulling back the carpet, that I can relate. And I said this before, I relate so much to some of these things that you've said. Although my journey and continuing journey, I bet different than yours, but feelings are the same. And
Mhm.
I'm sure many of you, listener, you're always talking to the one, right? The one that's listening might also have similar feelings. And I just want to say that the message here is just to keep going, just to keep
Yeah,
fighting. And I
of
think
course.
that
Yeah.
again, another favorite quote of mine, um, Judge Judy, I've seen this short a
I
lot of
love Judge
times.
Judy.
Yeah. And
Yes,
she said, if you don't make it in your 20s, make it in your 30s. If you don't make it in your 30s, you'll make it in your 40s. If you don't make
that's
it in your
right.
40s, make it in your 50s. She didn't become who we know her today. And I think it's not until she in her 60s
In her
is when
60s. Yeah.
she
Yeah.
got that TV show and that deal
Yeah.
and became who she was.
Yep.
And we don't know anything about her prior to that. I mean, I'm sure there's some stuff
Right.
on the internet here and there, but like the things that we witness, television, TV, podcast, whatever, is just a small blimp of the
Mhm.
journey. And
Yeah.
I'm grateful today for you to be sharing that journey. And I hope that this reaches out to that one who could benefit from it greatly. I know I have personally, and I'm sure that you have for sharing it. And I just want to thank you today for doing so. And I usually lay this on person before I do the recording. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the show or not, but usually my last question is a man who you admire, someone that you look up to. You talked a lot about your dad. You talked a lot about Christ. Um, I don't know if there's anybody else that comes to mind that you think of that you just kind of want to shout out.
No,
Here,
Jesus,
cool,
Jesus. I mean,
awesome.
that's really it. I mean, the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus himself. I mean, it's really what to strive after. If I could be that strong, to forgive and love everyone, I mean, really, that's the point of life to me. The point of life is to love, you know, because if you have that opportunity to be with somebody that closely, out of all the billions of people in the world, the best thing you can do is love them as much as you can with the little bit of time that you have, you know? So Jesus would be the person I look up to all the
Love
time.
it. I love it. I love the message. I wish you the best of luck. Again, all of the things will be in the description, and I looking forward to hearing more about this show that's streaming. And if there's anything or anytime you have something that you want to promote, feel free to ask, and we will shout you out, and we can have another awesome conversation. And
Awesome.
yeah, with that, I don't think I have anything left to say. Do you have any more closing statements that you'd like to share?
I think I would just tell the people that are listening that want to make it, or that whole thing. Being famous is probably not all it's cracked up to be, right? I mean, you got to think. Would you really want to uproot your whole entire life for a bunch of people to be around you all the time? Most of them not with your best interests at heart. You know, so that's what I mean about the changing of your perspective. When your heart changes, those things might not seem so important.
Yeah,
And when my heart changed, the only thing that I felt was important was writing The Endless Fall. That was it. After that, all this other stuff started happening, you know. And I'm very grateful and I'm very lucky to have had that happen to me. And for whoever's listening, anybody who's watching it or anything, you can always reach out to me. I love talking to people. I've become kind of like a nonchalant person that can just like listen to people because I've went through so much therapy in my life, and I keep things confidential, and I like it when people reach out to me so that I can try to help them, or even just talk. I mean, because we're social creatures, we need that sometimes.
mhm,
And I'm not an unreachable person, and I never will be. I'll always want to talk to people. That's never going to change because I feel like that's the purpose he gave me, was to reach out to tell people what happened, to help them. So that's what I'm going to do.
awesome, awesome. Well, again, I appreciate you taking the time to share your story and to share your
Absolutely.
mission and your goal. And this has been another episode of the Man Shift Guide, and we will see you on the next one.